We also have a podcast tonight. Be sure to be watching that. We did a podcast a couple of weeks ago called This Woman Needed Two Exorcisms. We showed you the first exorcism that took place at a seminar where CNN was filming it. And then I did a virtual follow-up with this woman. So you're going to see tonight the virtual follow-up and why she needed two exorcisms and why many people need two exorcisms. And by the way, if you have not looked at that CNN special, go back to the podcast we did about casting out demons on live network television and check it out there. We give you some sites that you can go to where you can see that CNN special. So we want you to make sure that you see that. I want to say a Merry Christmas on behalf of Laura and me to each and every one of you and a great start to the new year. So this is a bonus podcast today because I've had some things in my mind and some things came to my attention today. I just had to get in front of this telephone, this iPhone, and talk to you and communicate to you some things that are really important on the subject of how do you know if you have demons. So we've seen some really tragic things happen in the last couple of days. Nick Reiner charged with murder for murdering his parents, and the details of this are absolutely grotesque. He was at a party, he lost it. It was at Conan O'Brien's place, and he became violent, and basically they had to leave. And the next thing you know, one of the daughters finds her parents dead, their throats slit in bed, and this young man is being charged with coming into the house and killing them, their own son. That's demonic. Most people could say, that's the devil. Even pastors who don't preach about demons and don't do much about spiritual warfare were probably saying, that's demonic. And then Bondi Beach over in Sydney, I've been there. This special Hanukkah celebration. And this madman with that rifle, most of you have probably seen the clips of him being tackled by this very brave man who saved so many lives. That's demonic. Whether they're Jews or whoever they are, for somebody to just stand there with a rifle and plant it and begin to kill people, shooting them, demonic, right? Okay, so there's a lot of things that you can look at going on in the world and say, that's demonic. The recent ISIS attack on our servicemen, demonic. We could give you a long list. So how do you know if you have demons? And that's a real issue. And the reason I'm doing this today is because I got a couple of emails earlier today from some people that I've recently ministered to. And it so touched my heart what these people had to say. I want to just read you a couple of comments about what happened when they met with me for a deliverance session, a ministry session. And one of them was virtual, and the other one was in person. But this one was from a young woman by the name of Julia. That was another lady. This is Irina. Irina, she called my office today. I didn't take the call. One of my associates took it. And he said she was crying. Now, I did a deliverance session in person with this wonderful young woman just a few days ago. And she was in tears. She said, I am so happy. And here's a comment I've heard several times from people. She said, I can smell things. I can see colors I've never seen. I am very happy. I have never felt this way in all of my life. That's why you need to get an in-person or virtual encounter with me. We need to have some prayer time together to find out if you have demons. But in a moment, I'm going to talk about how you know if you have demons. And then I got another email from a middle-aged woman halfway around the world in Scandinavia. About 50% of the virtual sessions of ministry that I do are people outside of the United States in the most unusual places. Almost every nation in the world and all 6 continents I've ministered to virtually all day long. Every day I'm doing that. And this is her email to me. I printed it out. Hello, I had an appointment yesterday with Dr. Bob Larson. And this is just 2 days ago. I am overwhelmed with a sense of peace, clarity, and freedom today. And I'm immensely grateful to the Lord and dedicated work of Dr. Bob Larson and what he does in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you so much. Now, I still have some ancestral issues to deal with, so I wish to book another 2-hour ministry online with Dr. Larson if that's possible. Now, we get many calls and letters all day long from people who have been helped by this ministry. But those caught my attention today. And I was thinking about those of you out there, especially this Christmas season, when so many personal and emotional, painful issues of the past come into focus, whatever it may be. It's not news that at Christmas time those things are heightened in terms of the sensitivity of the human mind and emotions. You may be going through some really difficult times, and it causes something to surface that you haven't dealt with and you need to deal with. Well, the question then is it a demon? How would you even know if what you're experiencing or have been experiencing is a demon? You might think it could be, but could you be certain? The reality is that many people who are dealing with demonic oppression of all kinds don't actually know it. There are various forms of torment and even supernatural or paranormal experiences they may be having. And yet, making that leap from the natural to the supernatural, declaring that the problem is truly demonic, that can feel a little bit uncertain, a little bit scary. Among those who seek me out for help, who schedule ministry sessions with me or our associate ministers, there's about a 50-50 split. About half of the people who come to us are convinced their problem is demonic. And they'll say so when they schedule the session. I have demons. Sometimes they've had a previous manifestation through another ministry or church service or something like that. Or they've had a manifestation in their home and family members have seen it. So they are pretty sure their problem is demonic. The other half aren't sure. They wonder, the things that are going on with me, is it the devil or isn't it the devil? So how's the average person supposed to know what is demonic and what isn't demonic? Let me give you just a few clues that can help bring clarity to that. Whatever it is you're going through, whether or not your struggle could be spiritual or even demonic in nature, here are some common signs. And when people schedule a virtual or in-person time with me for ministry, they have to fill out an intake form, and we ask a lot of very specific questions about what they're going through, and this is reflected in some of those questions. But in general, this is what people say. And these things that I'm about to list may indicate that the issue is spiritual and potentially demonic. So let me give you symptoms that frequently appear in the lives of those who seek my help. Probably at the top of the list is paranormal phenomena. Not everything that seems to be paranormal is paranormal. Frankly, sometimes it's people's imagination. But oftentimes, very sound people, intellectual people, very rational people, highly educated people will come telling me things that just could not be put in the realm of somebody having spectacular thinking. It's paranormal. And maybe you've seen stuff. And people tell me all the time, there are orbs floating around the house, doors open and close, and drawers open and close, or, a very common one is something comes and stands at the foot of my bed or sits in my bed, or I hear a voice in my head. Now, of course, hearing voices could be a sign of mental illness. We know that. I've heard people in Deliverance say, well, if you hear voices, it's demons. Well, not necessarily. It could be an altered personality state. It could be inherited soul parts speaking in your mind genetically. Or it could be a demon. But you're not going to be qualified to objectify that and understand what it is. That's why you need somebody who's experienced and knows what they're doing in deliverance. And we're able to help you in that area. Another common one is that people say, well, there's something crawling around inside my body. I hear that a lot. Sometimes people will have like a python or a leviathan or kundalini snake type spirit, and they'll actually feel that thing crawling inside them, sometimes wrapping itself around their neck or their spine. Or they sense other things. I've had people say, I have bugs crawling under me. And there are things moving around, often at the solar plexus or the stomach area where that second brain is located neurologically. There are various explanations for it, but if you've got that sensation, if it's not medical and you've ruled that out, it could be demonic. Here's another sign that often people tell me about. They have a strong sense that their mind is being gripped and controlled by something unnatural or someone else or being taken away from them. So they will say things like, well, I try to read my Bible and my mind is fogged. It's like something takes my mind away. Or I try to focus upon God, or I try to pray, and I just can't do it. Now, that could be psychological. It could be a mental problem. But if you don't talk to somebody who's experienced in deliverance, you're really never going to know. Here's another one. If you've had previous serious involvement in the occult, and both of these emails that I read to you a moment ago, these people had serious involvement, deep involvement in the occult. And they pointed, in each case, to a specific time when they were involved in the occult that something triggered psychological or emotional distress. They have a kind of break with reality. Sometimes it happens through what's called a kundalini awakening, or it can just happen when the demon finally decides to take over and the person feels a shift in consciousness because they're not playing New Age games anymore. This is real. I mentioned a moment ago, sometimes there's a lot of confusion, maybe when I go to church. Maybe they're around spiritual things or try to have a spiritual conversation. And here's a big one. Again, this doesn't mean that this or any of the other things that I've cited is definitely demonic and you have a demon if this is going on. But the persistent fear that you're going to hell, you're losing your salvation, you're being judged, and there's no real clear reason for it. A lady sat down with Laura and me in our offices just yesterday for a 2-hour session, and she'd flown a considerable distance to meet with us. A very dear lady, but she's gone through a lifetime of cult involvement. Her parents were involved in several different cults, and these were, Christian cults that had aberrational biblical teachings, and it really messed up her thinking. It messed up her head, and they were very demanding, very legalistic, and so she was in constant fear. If she didn't do the right thing or give so much or do so much, she was going to burn in the fires of hell. Well, that's a bit circumstantial because it was related to her particular situation and the people that she was involved with in their indoctrination. But oftentimes, if there's no real clear reason for you to feel a sense of unworthiness that God has or is going to reject you, that can be demonic. So there's a couple examples. So if any of these experiences resonate with you, it's important that you take the next step. And one of the things I really recommend is going to our website, demontest.org. It's free. All you have to do is complete the analysis that's there. I put this together. It was a laborious project. All these questions you have to answer, and each question is weighted differently in terms of the probability of demonization. And then you're going to get a score at the end that will rank the severity of what you're experiencing and explain what that ranking means, and that gives you clarity and direction. So that's demontest.org. Go there as soon as I'm finished. If you've never been there, check it out. Some of you people out there that think you're ready for sainthood and God's about to translate you to eternity any moment, you might be surprised, because we minister to people in every walk of life. Pastors, priests, nuns, Bible college students, worship leaders, pastors of large churches, small churches, all kinds of folks. but there's something going on that they just can't deal with, can't explain. If your body, for example, develops persistent pain, and it's just not functioning properly over a period of time, would you go see a doctor? Well, you probably would. And eventually, you might take it even further. You might get a blood test, an x-ray, or even an MRI or a scan. So if you had pain in your body that the doctors couldn't externally diagnose, you want to take a closer look inside. So I want you to transfer that thinking to the spiritual realm. Frankly, it's surprising to me how people will go on for years with demonic symptoms and never do anything about it. Never address it. For one thing, they've been told by most pastors it can't be a demon, so they just cross that off the list of possibilities. And they keep trying all sorts of spiritual cures, but nothing stops the problem. And oftentimes they won't look into the possibility of demonic origin unless it's too serious to ignore. But the problem is this, just like in the physical realm, if you wait too long for treatment, the situation can pass a point where it's difficult to do anything about it. You know, I've had surgery several times, and each time I've asked the referring physician who recommended a certain surgeon this question: is it the best? How long has he been doing it? What's the success rate? And you know, it's surprising to me that people, they'll get spiritual surgery without similar due diligence. You know, they just show up at a church or religious meeting to listen to somebody they've really never heard before, don't know much about. They have no idea about the credentials and the doctrinal stand of this person, and then they let that person pray for them. Something as serious as demonic oppression, when in fact, that person may not know what they're doing, or be so new at it, they're relatively incompetent. I'm not saying that's going to happen in every case. I'm just saying be careful. If somebody really doesn't know what they're doing, beware quick prayers followed by the assurance that everything is okay without knowing who is praying for you and whether or not they are qualified to draw those kinds of conclusions. Schedule some time with me or one of our associate ministers. And I want to mention a couple of things because you've gotten some emails from me, most likely, very recently. One of them is entitled, "How Can We Help You Get Free, Stay Free, Live Free?" If you read this, if not, please go check your emails. If you're on our list and you're a subscriber, particularly to the YouTube channel, I list in there what this ministry, by the grace of God, has been able to accomplish just in this last one single year. This is what I stated in the letter, and this may be surprising to you. In this last year, we have spent over 3,000 hours in personal prayer sessions to free people from Satan. 3,000 hours. We've ministered directly to more than 1,500 people. Honestly, let's just be frank. Most megachurch pastors, if they personally pray intensely with 5 people in a year, that's a big deal because they're too busy with too many other things. This is our focus. You, your needs, the needs of those that you love. Those are extraordinary statistics. Frankly, in the realm of deliverance, no one has made the commitment to do that, and this is our calling from the Lord. But not only that, we produced 100 podcasts. We posted 500 short videos on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and we put up hundreds of teaching videos on Dunamis, our streaming channel. And we've expanded Bob Larson University. Those are remarkable numbers. By the grace and the strength of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Laura and I, and our dedicated team of people have been able to do that. And by the way, that doesn't count all of our associate ministers, more than a dozen who are out there every day also ministering to people. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for standing by this ministry with a special year-end tithe or offering to help us to continue to do that. And just today, as I speak, you have received or are about to receive a special email. If you're on our email list, it's called Get Spiritually Fit and Free. Read it over carefully. The Lord laid it on my heart yesterday, and I sat down with my staff and I said, look, we need to do something quickly before the end of the year. Because in all honesty, the donations we ask of people to support the ministry for the prayer sessions, we're going to have to increase the bottom line on that because of all the various economic factors that affect us, our facilities, our equipment, our people, everything that we're about. So we're going to create this one last opportunity in this year for you to get in on something very special, to get a couple of sessions with me to get to the bottom of what's going on in your life. To find out this question, do you have demons? But we just don't find out whether or not you have demons. We discover what to do about it. And what's most important, with the Lord's help, with revelation and understanding, demonic interrogation, we find out where it started and we cut it off so you can get free. So schedule that time. Go right now. Call us. 303-980-1511. Or just simply go to boblarson.org. Look at the various options that are available to support the ministry, to get ministry, so that before you get into 2026, you're ready. Those nagging issues that have been tormenting you for years, those thoughts in your mind that are so ungodly that you battle day and night, the weird, strange, supernatural things that are happening around you, all of that can come to an end. These are just 2 emails from 2 people in the last 2 days whose lives have been completely turned upside down. And there are many more in many, many parts of the world. So thank you for those of you who your desire is to share tithes and offerings to continue to make it happen, and you plan to do something real quickly before the end of the year. And for others, go to boblarson.org, call us, contact us, find out what opportunities are available. How do you know if you have demons? Don't leave it to yourself to figure that out. You can't objectify your own spiritual condition. You can't look yourself in the eye or analyze your past and the circumstances which have affected you and arrive at a reasonable conclusion as to whether or not it's demonic. That's what God calls people like Laura, me, our associate ministers, and others to do this kind of ministry, to focus on it, to be there for you, so that you will know whether or not you have a demon. Thank you again for all of your prayers and support this year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Be sure to watch tonight. This woman needed 2 exorcisms, part 2. Remember, you do not have to live in bondage to the powers of darkness. You can get free, stay free, and live free. Thank you for watching.